Hello my little researchers. Okay, what I want to do in this video is show you how you can use ChatGPT within your research project for the next phase of what you're going to be doing, which is putting your research together into a format for your outcome. So I'm going to use ChatGPT to generate a couple of possible essay plans for me. That's going to then let me have a look at where I'm at with regards to my actual research, work out what else I might still need to find, and help me kind of audit some of the information that I already have. So that's the plan, okay? So what you are going to need to do is go to your web browser, type in up the top here ChatGPT. What you should be taken to is a login page for ChatGPT that looks just like this. If you don't already have a login, or you haven't yet started using ChatGPT and exploring it, use the sign up function. If you have already got access, use the login function and put in your email and password. Now this is going to take me to the program itself. Over here we have a few other things that I've played around with in ChatGPT, so this is like my past history, I suppose you'd say. For today I'm going to do a new chat, and what I'm going to do is think very carefully about what you need to put into the prompt box down here. Remembering that you are asking the program to build you something, and it might take a bit of refinement within your writing of what you're going to get the computer to do for you. So I'm going to ask it to suggest a possible structure for an essay that investigates the causes and effects of captive killer whales being involved in the deaths of their handlers in marine parks. Okay, suggest a possible structure for an essay that investigates the causes and effects of captive killer whales being involved in the deaths of their handlers in marine parks. Okay, so I think that's where I'm going to start. Whoops, sorry, okay, get rid of that. I need to move that. There you go, now we'll try it again. And it's going to start generating a response for me. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've been given. So, the causes and effects of captive killer whales involved in the deaths of their handlers in marine parks. Introduction. So within the introduction, it's suggesting that I have some kind of hook, start with a compelling anecdote or statistic about an incident involving a captive killer whale and its handler. Do I have something within my research that I could use for that? I think I do, so that's a tick. Context. Briefly introduce the prevalence of killer whale captivity in marine parks and its controversial aspects. Do I have information that would help me cover that? Briefly, prevalence of killer whale captivity, so that would be like, the numbers of killer whales, marine parks, whereabouts in the world they are, and what's the controversy around that. Yep, I can do that. Thesis statement. So this is sort of what I'm going to actually be covering in the essay. Present the main arguments that explore the causes leading to incidents of killer whales harming or killing their handlers and the subsequent effects on various stakeholders. Effects on various stakeholders. So the fact that a couple of the marine parks have closed down, that there are various animal groups around the world that are talking very loudly about the need to restrict this type of animal being kept in captivity, etc. So yeah, I've got some information about that one. Main arguments that explore the leading causes to incidents. Okay, that's an area that I'm going to be investigating, and I've looked at things like the mental health and the how animals are kept amused, I suppose. So yep, I could cover that. Background on killer whales in captivity, so the historical context, the history of killer whales being captured and trained for marine parks. Yep, that'll only take me a couple of sentences. Purpose of captivity, reasons marine parks keep killer whales, entertainment, education, conservation. Yep, and I've got a couple of so-called experts and their views, some interviews and stuff that have been done that I can use for that information. Natural versus captive environment, natural habitat, social structures of wild killer whales with the conditions in captivity. That's probably not an area that I have covered in any great extent. I do have a lot of information on killer whales conditions in captivity, but I haven't looked at the natural habitat and social structures of the wild killer whales. So that probably indicates an area where I can undertake a little bit more research to make sure that I've got something to be able to compare there. Comparison is really important to be able to show within this type of research, because it shows my ability to analyse information and utilise that information rather than just regurgitate information. Section 2, causes of aggressive behaviour in captive killer whales. So stress and confinement. Yep, I've got experts talking about limiting the limited space, lack of stimulation, and how that contributes to stress and aggression. I've got some really great information on that one. Social isolation and forced social structures. Analyse the impact of separating killer whales from the natural social groups. Okay, so again, if I go back to this natural versus captive environment and I'm doing a bit more research in that area, I'll have more that I can then incorporate into this. Training and treatment, discuss the methods used in training and handling, including any abusive practices or deprivation. Yeah, I've got a couple of examples of that, including some stuff from both researchers, trainers, and public observations. So I've got plenty of backup sources for that one. Health issues, highlight physical and psychological health problems that arise from captivity leading to unpredictable behaviour. Yep, I've got interviews with the vets and the marine biologists involved with blackfish from that particular source, so I can cover that. Case studies, detailed analysis of key incidents, provide an in-depth look at notable incidents where captive killer whales have harmed or killed their handlers. Tilcombe at SeaWorld, that's what's triggered this research to start with. Patterns and commonalities, identify common factors in these incidents such as the whale's history, condition of captivity and handling practices. That's probably not going to be a massive focus in what I'm doing, because I've only got 2,000 words, and if I spend too much of it on case studies I'm going to very quickly run out of words. But I do have some of that information covered in my folio, which is a good thing. Patterns and commonalities, identify common factors. So I could do something like a table which might let me put in a range of incidents with things like the history, how long they've been in captivity for, how much space they have possibly, how much interaction they have with handlers. So there's ways I can incorporate that, most definitely. Effects and stakeholders, handlers and trainers, long-term impacts on the individuals who work with these animals. Yep, I've got some interviews from discussions with those people. Marine parks, the financial, reputational, operational consequences for marine parks following such incidents. Yep, so there's information about the place in San Diego, I think it was, that closed down, etc. Public perception and activism, explore how these incidences influence public opinion and fuel animal rights activism. Definitely got some information on that. There's also public posts on Facebook groups, etc. that I can utilise for that. Regulatory and policy changes, analyse any changes in laws, regulations or industry practices in response to these incidences. That's an area where I can probably do with a little bit more investigation. So I might look into some of the laws and whether any of the laws or regulations have actually changed or altered as a result of these incidences. Section 5, broader implications and ethical considerations. Engage with the ethical arguments for and against keeping killer whales in activity. Well, I can kind of incorporate that further back into what I'm talking about with regards to things like case studies and causes of aggressive behaviour, etc. So that again might be an area that I can kind of remove to help keep my word count where it needs to be. But it's certainly an important area to cover because it's part of ethics, part of the capabilities and part of what I need to show in research as well. Alternatives to captivity. Potential alternatives such as sanctuaries, enhanced welfare practices and their feasibility. That can actually come into my conclusion as well. Future of marine parks. Speculate on the future direction of marine parks in light of increasing scrutiny. Okay, so where did I get up to? Alright, so down here in section 5, suggest possible alternatives such as sanctuaries, enhanced welfare practice and their feasibility, the future of marine parks, speculate on the future direction. Some of those kinds of things can also be incorporated into my conclusion. It's suggesting that in my conclusion that I restate the thesis, reiterate the main points about the causes and effects of the incidences, summarise my key arguments and offer some final thoughts or reflections on what needs to be done. That all sounds, like a perfectly reasonable outline. What I would now suggest that I do, and obviously references and citations, we've spoken about that a little bit and we'll talk more in the future as well. What I would now do would be to print something like this out and actually look at, well, where can I firstly condense things, because I've only got 2,000 words and having 5 sections to cover, I'd be looking at like less than 400 words for each of these sections, which means really I'm only talking about 1 paragraph for each of these sort of possible topics and ideas up here, which is not going to let me go into a great deal of depth and detail, which is what I'm going to need to be able to show my research to the highest possible standards for the performance standards. So there would be some alterations that I would make to this, but it's certainly a really good starting point, and it also lets me analyse the information and the research that I've done and see where I have gaps that I still need to fill. So if I haven't yet covered anything with regards to public perception and activism, then that's an area where I still need to conduct a little bit of research. Or if all I've got with regards to the handlers and trainers are interviews with people that have voiced concerns and are disgruntled and have a particular bias in their opinion, then maybe what I need to do is also find some alternative opinions within that particular group to be able to provide more balance within my research. So that shows how you can use ChatGPT for one example. What I would like to do is think of a slightly more challenging scenario where we could possibly use ChatGPT, and I'm thinking this time of one of the practical type of research projects that's going on in the classroom at the moment. So I'm going to see if I can suggest a possible outline for a presentation or essay that covers research into the sure that we've got that quite right, but suggest a possible outline for a presentation or essay that covers my research into the positive and negative design factors of a metal fire pit, where I make my own example based upon the research, where I produce my own example where I produce my own example based upon the research factors of an. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Okay. Detailed outline for a presentation or essay. Okay, let's see what we've got. So, opening statement, brief introduction to the popularity and functionality of metal fire pits, importance of understanding design factors for safety, aesthetics and usability. Purpose of the research, to evaluate the positive and negative design factors to prevent an original design based on the findings. Yep. So that's, all my introduction. Outline the main points to be covered, creation of a new metal fire pit design. Positive factors, durability, resistance to weather and elements, longevity compared to other materials like wood or stone. Yep, covered that in my research. Heat resistance, ability to withstand high temperatures without degrading. Metals commonly used. Yep, and I can talk about my decisions based upon things like cost, what I can actually access, and my ability to work with those materials. The aesthetics, my modern and sleek designs possible with metal, customizable shapes and patterns through various techniques. Maintenance, ease of cleaning and upkeep. Low maintenance requirement, portability, lighter weight options, ease of, all of that can be covered. Negative design factors, heat conduction, risk of burns from touching hot metal surfaces, need for proper handling and placement to ensure safety. Yep, so that can talk, I can cover that in what I've got. Corrosion and rust, vulnerability to rust if not properly treated or maintained. Impact of weather conditions, cost, higher initial cost, variability in price, so I can show a comparison and like what I actually made my decision based upon with regards to cost. That lets me bring in that side of my research, which again will show sort of the scope and the broadness of the research that I've done. Design limitations, shapes and sizes due to metalworking constraints. So again, the decision to go with a square fire pit, mainly because that's what I like, but also because I don't have the ability to work with the tools and equipment that would be needed to make a round one. So that's some of the constraints. Less natural look compared to wood or stone options. Developing original fire pit design. Sources of inspiration for my design and user needs. Consider aesthetic trends and functional requirements, so I can bring in my survey that I've done. Material selections, justification, well I've covered that further up, so that bit could go again based on word count and the fact that I've only got 2,000 words to be able to do this. Design features, so I can talk about safety features. I'm not making screens, the handles, and whether or not I can actually have some kind of non-conductive handle incorporated into it, that kind of thing. Aesthetic features, so laser cutting, functional features. If I don't include or intend to incorporate any of that, that could be removed again for word count purposes. The manufacturing process, my overview of the steps involved, the techniques that I'm going to be using. I've got photographs and things of all of those, so that can all definitely be incorporated. My cost analysis, comparison with market prices of similar products. It's interesting to be able to do, see what I can find there and incorporate that. Testing, prototype, creation of a prototype, challenges faced, safety, functionality, user feedback and observations, so I can get some feedback once I've made it, get some photographs, get people to tell me what they think of it, etc. Adjustments and improvements. I'm not going to be able to adjust and improve in this one, but I could possibly talk about things that I might do if I was ever to attempt to do this again. In my conclusion, all of those kinds of things can be incorporated pretty quickly with a couple of sentences. And references down the end. So it's very useful to use a tool like ChatGPT to see where you're at with regards to your research. It's really important that you get this correct, like the prompt that you use. And when you come up with like your outline, like this one, obviously you can't use ChatGPT to write the whole thing for you. But when you come up with this outline, you can most definitely use what's suggested here as your basis for what it is that you're going to produce. Print it out, do a little bit of annotation of it, cross some things out, add some things in, make some notes about what information you do have, don't have, what you still need to do, etc., etc. But it's most definitely a really useful tool for research project, guys, and it is well worth having a look at, particularly before you are beginning to start writing up your outcomes yourself. I think this would be a really good stage at which to use it. You've still got time to go back and do any of the additional research that needs to be done and collect any of the information. There might be something there that you haven't considered or hadn't thought about, and you've still got time to be able to address some of those things. Okay, so that's just a couple of examples of how you could possibly use ChatGPT to help and assist you at this stage where you are conducting your research and just beginning to think about what that might actually look like in an outcome format. Okay, good luck everyone. Thank you. See you later.